Welcome everyone, and thanks for coming this morning. Like Michelle said, we're very excited about what we're going to announce today. It's been some time in the making. Some of you probably are aware. I've had some sneak previews. Like Michelle said, we have been working with a group of people across clients and agencies to try to work out what we need to do to satisfy the demands of the market as the world's moving on and people need things faster and, like Michelle said, more granular. So today I've got a series of announcements. So my role in this is really to take you through what it is that we're going to deliver, when, so hopefully to get you all excited. So the next thing is, I suppose, is just to sort of start off by saying that there are four major pillars to our announcement, and they are around speed to market. This is something that's obviously been asked for some time now, in terms of everyone wants to be able to do post-analysis of campaigns quickly after the campaign's finished. It's also about really getting our data out faster, and it's also about getting our data out more regularly. The next thing is about unlocking granularity. So we've obviously got a lot of detail in our single source data, and one of the ones that have been asked, well, I suppose a specific area that's been asked for many years in media and agencies has been the unlocking of monthly breaks, particularly across our readership data. So I'll take you around some of the developments in that area in a minute. The next area is trending. So this is, of course, if you're going to start unlocking more deeper granular data, you need to be able to look at it across a longer time series to make sense of things like seasonality, year on year, major events, campaigns, etc. So we'll be addressing that area. And the last area, a very exciting area for us, of course, is the move into big data integration, which means a couple of things. It means really about positioning Roy Morgan at the forefront of big data. We like to say sort of the missing jigsaw piece in terms of integrating big data sets and bringing meaning and shedding light on big data sets, as well as about, I suppose, forming big pipelines between our data systems here and our clients, and particularly the agency's internal data systems, so through APIs and various interfaces and dashboards. So without further ado, let's get started in looking at what we're going to do around speed to market. So in terms of when we started talking, particularly to our agency clientele, about what they needed, in terms of speed to market, there was a lot of things said in terms of the need to get data out faster from our system. So we've put a couple of quotes up there for you at the moment. But it's obviously a really important area, particularly in the digital age, where a lot of other systems now are coming out either virtually real time, and again, this need from the forecasting units to be able to get data quickly so that you can make decisions, you can do ROIs, etc. So where have we been and where are we going to? So the first thing to say, for some of you who may not realise, we have been, and today, releasing monthly databases to advertisers. The other thing that we've done most recently is we brought forward the release of our early indicator readership data for publishers by 10 days to coincide with the circulation data releases. What we've now done is review all of our systems, and today we'll be releasing our full media data set, which would normally have gone out to clients at the end of this month, early September, will be available today. So we've brought forward the release of our media data by 2 weeks. We're in the process of also bringing a further week to that timetable. We would expect sometime in the course of the next couple of months, we will be 3 full weeks ahead of what you're used to, which will see our media database going out 5 weeks, or going out to clients 5 weeks after the end of the interviewing of the last month. That's part of the release. So that's quite a leap forward from where we were before. But like I said, this whole idea of speed to market, there's 2 components of it, to be fairly obvious, which is, of course, recency and frequency. So there is this concept of getting the most recent data out as soon as possible, and then the other idea, of course, is to actually get data out more frequently. So the first initiative that I've just addressed is really about trying to get recency, and that is just trying to get the release in the hands of our media clients as soon as possible. And as Michelle said in her introduction, the other thing to mention is in other areas of the business, we can do things in hours or days or weeks. So if you think about the voting intention data, particularly the SMS polling we're doing at the moment, this is coming out literally minutes to hours after announcements or surveys have been in field. The other thing is our consumer confidence data, which is done weekly, and that literally comes out the next day after we're finished interviewing. We've also got early indicator releases that we actually have organised for clients to get, again, sometimes a week or two after the release of the data. So our intention is in fact to move in that direction and to get more of our data available quicker. And I can see a day where next year is where we have this slated, is that there are various components of our data that actually can come out faster than other pieces. So we talk about things like full media databases. That means you wait until everything's in and then it goes out, and that's what I'm talking about being available 5 weeks after the last round of interviewing. But there are components of that which are available effectively a week or the weekend after. So we will be working with clients, particularly when I talk later on about data integration and about setting up data pipelines between us and our clients which go beyond Asteroid, of how we can get various elements out faster and in a more flexible way. The other point is frequency. So the issue here, of course, has been that you'd all know that we release our full media databases quarterly. That's been the case, and I've actually had a number of conversations with clients saying, well, like our advertising clients, would you like us to move to monthly? And I have heard people say, well, you know, we use it strategically for planning purposes, getting it every month, we've got to get our IT people to organise to do something and so forth. So the requirement for some time has not necessarily been around getting it out more regularly, it's about getting it out faster, which is hence the first announcement I made. But in terms of regularity, we are going to move to monthly releases of the media data. So we'll move from quarterly to monthly full media databases. So what does this all mean? So the timetable is right now, today, people who are in media and agencies will be receiving their database 2 weeks ahead of time. So again, this is the one that you would have received in early September. That will be available for pickup today. There will be an email also available to people to download it. One of the other things we're going to move to is a cloud-based service, which we see will be fully functional by after Q1 next year. But in the meantime, we're actually moving to just having our databases available for download online. That further cuts back for some of you a day or two just in having the thing delivered to you by courier, particularly if you're interstate. So I'm hoping if there are people here who are normally the administrators of the databases, when you get back to your desks, there will be an email inviting you to download the database, but we will be just normally issuing them by courier as we normally do. And that'll be a discussion that we'll have with you one-on-one as to your preferences moving forward. So we'll also release a new schedule. Obviously with this new world, we'll be revising all of our timetable estimates for when you receive databases, so you'll get that shortly. Like I said, we'll be moving to cloud-based delivery completely, so the idea would be that bypassing all IT structures, you'll be able to run things like Asteroid and get access to our data over the web, which again will make things more timely and also more flexible. And like I said, I think really an exciting initiative will be those that have been asking to get the media data more frequently, we will be doing that as well in terms of, like I said, releasing it on a monthly basis. The next area is about unlocking granularity, and I think if any of the areas, perhaps bar big data, has received the most sort of excitement and anticipation, it is really this area. And this is really about the provision of monthly breaks across all of our media data for agencies and the media folk. And in particular, it means the release of monthly readership data. So you can imagine there's been a lot said about this. And we've been working closely with a group of agencies to try and work out what is the best way to do this. It is a big step forward. As Michelle said, the idea of producing a readership currency, which is an average of 12 months, we still strongly believe in that is the best measure of performance of a magazine or newspaper. However, time's moved on and people, particularly in agencies, need to do ROIs on campaigns, which you just simply can't do on a 12-month average issue readership number. So I think, as far as I can see, the agencies and media clients have appreciated the controversy around the move to monthly data, and it is controversial. And so part of this working group is really been to determine, what do we need to do and how do we do it responsibly, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But a lot of feedback in terms of, and a lot of desire to get access to more granular media data. So, where have we been and where are we going to? So, for stating the obvious, that up till now, our media databases have been locked as 12-month averages. And like I said, this has been primarily around the protection of the currency, and also acknowledging that over the years gone by, that has really been the way that a lot of planning and strategy work has been done, is on sort of long-term trends, and really having a sample by looking at the data in 12-month blocks has been appropriate, but we see that is no more. So we're moving, I should say, in the meantime, before we move to our monthly breaks, I think I should remind people that there have been some other fairly significant developments in granularity over the last 12 months. And the first one has been, of course, the release of the sectional readership data, which was actually more like a few years ago, which I believe a few people often forget that Roy Morgan a few years ago released sectional readership data, and that has been available in the market. The next area, of course, is having dedicated readership numbers for hundreds of regional and community newspaper titles that the publishers get, and this data is available. The next thing, of course, is moving to things like total masthead readership, which we did a couple of years ago. So this is the idea that I'm not just measuring the printed edition of the newspaper or magazine, but obviously looking at the website and looking at the apps and looking at the mobile phone. So, device agnostic, just looking at how people are reading news and mastheads. So we brought that in a couple of years ago with the introduction of our web audience measurement system, which is we call WAM, which is a system where people have a piece of tracking software which actually looks in real time at what they're actually doing, and we use that to create enhanced readership and media numbers in that online internet space. The final area is around engagement. Now, some of you would know that we do have some engagement metrics. A couple of years ago, we did actually create engagement measures across all of our media data. So one of the other things that we will be making available is engagement across newspaper and magazine titles. And we have a number of years of history there. And again, this has been another controversial area that is part of this roadmap moving forward. We're going to release this data because we know that there is a real desire to look at engagement as well as granular data across all media platforms. The other thing, as Michelle said, and I think it is important to note, is that monthly readership data has been provided in one shape or form for 10 years to the publishers, but it's been something that really, in consultation with them, that we have never released. So again, it's a really big day for us to be able to say that not only are we removing the 12-month aggregated lock on the databases, but releasing specifically magazine and newspaper monthly readership data. So what does this mean? Well, it means as of now, we are moving from a situation where we're doing the 12-month moving average databases to that where we're actually releasing monthly data. So on September the 30th, we will be reissuing media databases which will actually have monthly breaks in them, and those monthly breaks will also contain monthly breaks on all of the newspaper and magazine titles. At that stage, on September 30, the databases will still be quarterly, although they'll be faster, as I've said before. But the idea from Q1 next year is that they will then be released on a monthly basis, and then, like I said, progressively rolled out on a cloud-based basis as well. I'll ask you just to remember September 30, because when we get to trending, you'll see that there is a reason why we are saying September 30, because we're giving people an opportunity to do something in the meantime. And I'll talk a little bit about that further when I get to the trending section, because a lot of this sort of, these four pillars are interrelated in terms of the way the data works. So, I'd like to take you through some examples, because obviously the question is going to be, well, what is this going to look like and what is this all going to mean? So I just have a couple of examples for you. The first one is just looking at sponsorship or advertising within a television program. So we know that Coles Supermarket sponsors MasterChef. So the first thing I'd just like to show you, just so you get a feel for the baseline, is that this is just the proportion of Australians who mainly shop at Coles and Woolworths, was going to say Safeway, over by month over a number of years. And I think the most important thing to say is that Woolworths is always above, and they generally tram track each other. When you then look at it in terms of people who especially choose to watch MasterChef, it changes quite significantly. Now what we're getting to see is that the lines in fact no longer tram track, and in fact Coles in fact goes above Woolworths at certain points. And as you would probably guess it, that coincides when MasterChef is actually on television. So what we're actually seeing in this data is a relationship between viewing of MasterChef and behavioural change at the pointy end at the supermarkets. And so this data, in really simple terms, is now going to be available, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these examples. They look very simple when you put them up like this, but this is the type of thing that agencies have been asking for some time, that you will be able to look at the effectiveness of campaigns. So obviously if you were Coles' agency, or Coles, or in fact Channel 10 for that matter, this would be a great story and would be worth looking into further. The next example I'd just like to look at is magazine readership, and what does the monthly trends look like there. So this is magazine readership amongst women, just looking at Women's Day and New Idea, two general magazines. And you'll notice that generally speaking, you would not normally expect to see much seasonality when it comes down to magazine readership. And in fact, magazine readership for a title like New Idea or Women's Day could be just as high in April as it was in January. But what we do see, of course, is that it actually responds to other things, and they're fairly obvious things. They're things like major events and covers. So you'll certainly see there's nothing like a royal wedding or the announcement that maybe Kate might be pregnant in terms of driving magazine readership spikes. We would expect that magazine readership would fluctuate from time to time, and like I said, and in doing so, just relating to other activities in the marketplace, share of voice, like I said, as well as major events. But this data now will actually start to give people a better understanding of the movements of this data and what to expect with certain events or certain advertising campaigns. So we anticipate that agencies, and the feedback we've had so far, is that this is fantastic data for doing things like forecasting and modelling and return on investment work. The next area I'd like to talk about is trending. So the comment that was made amongst the working group was it's great to release all of this detailed monthly data, but if we don't get to see it over a long time frame, it won't make terribly much sense, particularly when you're trying to get a sense of what happens with the Olympics or what happens in summer or what happens at the AFL Grand Final or whatever it might be. So part of replatforming everything is to try to actually coincide speed to market with granular data, with longer term data sets for people to really start understanding trends in the marketplace. So trending has also triggered quite a response from our clients in terms of why it is necessary to get longer term trending databases for forecasting and modelling purposes. So our roadmap here is pretty simple. Where we are today is that agencies and media typically get a 12-month database, which of course, like I said, doesn't contain months at this point, but will. And some of you get multi-year media-only data sets. So the intention is to move to having a 5-year cumulative full media data set, and this will be a 5-year cumulative media data set which will contain monthly breaks, as I've mentioned before. Now you might say 5 years, a lot of the stuff that we have here goes back 30, 40 years. And so yes, we appreciate that, but we also know that it's horses for courses, and not everyone wants to have 30 years of things, and not everyone wants to disseminate 30 years of data to everyone in their organisation. So our response there is that we will be making these long-term trending data sets available upon request and negotiation. They will be available if you want a 30-year readership by month data set, you'll be able to get access to it, or whether or not it's some of our product data that goes back 20, 30 years as well. So these sorts of long-term data sets that we actually have here in the building will be made available, but the standard data set that will go to agencies and media will be a 5-year full cumulative media database by month part. So again, a fairly obvious chart. If you're an advertiser, you'd go, gosh, I've seen this before, but obviously now in the full media database, you'll be able to look at product data and media data over 5 years by month, and you'll start to see things like in the cider consumption chart here, you'll be able to see the seasonality spikes and the long-term upward trend in cider consumption, which has obviously irritated the beer companies for some time. So you'll see that every time that there is a peak, which seems to obviously coincide with summer, it returns to a slightly lower point after, but then continues to rise over many years. And this information, simple information, will now be available, and for planning purposes, better understanding again what happens when you run campaigns and the typical seasonality and cycles of products. So it's very simple what this means. On September 30, we'll be releasing a 5-year cumulative media database to coincide with the release of the month parts. I mentioned earlier just about keeping in mind the September 30 date, and one of the reasons is that we realised that different clients over the years have moved around with their subscriptions, bought things, dropped things, added things, etc. So we will be having a discussion quickly over the next few weeks just to allow people, if they want to upgrade back data so that there is a consistency where possible across the 5 years. So therefore, if you've only subscribed to certain things that are important to you now and you'd like to see them across 5 years, you have an opportunity to do so. So that will be a one-on-one discussion that will occur in the very short term. The last area I just want to talk about is big data integration. Now this is a very exciting area. Everything is a really exciting area, but this has been something we've been working on now for, again, the last 18 to 20 months. And it means a lot of things to different people. It's a real buzzword. Everyone's talking about big data. And I'm using it broadly in terms of the fact that people have large customer databases, people have third-party data sets, people have transactional data sets, people are trying to understand how to integrate those data sets and bring meaning and focus to those data sets. And it's also about trying to bring data together on a platform which is fast and friendly and easy to use and digest. So our initiatives around big data will address both how you integrate and make sense of big data, which will be our new product called Helix Personas, as well as dashboards and other delivery systems to help integrate and make data more user-friendly and flexible. So again, a lot has been said about big data. Agency clients in particular have clients who are struggling with big data sets. Agencies themselves have enormous amounts of data sets. I've seen some of them and there's just data coming in from everywhere, being integrated in real time, which is just fantastic. And so our challenge has been, how do we get our data in a more flexible way to integrate with these new sort of data central rooms and areas of agency and media clients? That is beyond just the Asteroid delivery framework, and it's also a way of trying to help clients and agencies bring together different data sets so that they can make sense of them. So where have we been and where are we going to? So it's fair to say that today, some of you may not be aware of just the amount of customisation that we do. So yes, the preferred delivery mechanism at the moment is Asteroid, and we do customisation. In fact, we have hundreds of different customisations on data sets. Just in media alone, I think there's something like 130 different media data sets that go out. And that's one of the things that we do to try and, provide something to an organisation that meets their needs. And even within an organisation, we hear, well, there's different levels of users. There are more sophisticated users who need to see more stuff, and there are more simple or planning people who need to see a different sort of a data set. So we do different customs across clients as well as within clients. We also, over the last couple of years, have started to work in the area of API integration, which is Application Programming Interface, which is a really neat word just to basically say it's a bit of code that works between our data and client systems, which enable the transfer of data out of Asteroid seamlessly, automatically into the in-house systems of our clients. And that's been a really important area because one of the competitive edges of a lot of our clients, and particularly agencies, is all about having big proprietary information systems which give them a competitive edge. So we've been looking at how we get our data piped into those particular systems. The next area is Helix Personas. Now, Helix Personas, as I said, is our big answer to big data. It's our answer to how to make sense of big data and combine data sets together, and I'll show you an example or a sneak preview of that in a moment. We're going to see Helix Personas launch publicly in Q4 of this year. The final area is really about full integration. This is where we want to get to next year, and we're already starting. We've got the initiatives and trials already in place around this at the moment, but we want to formally roll this out across clients from next year. And full integration will mean things like, and this is just my non-technical explanation, it's really about us having a pipeline out of this building directly into a client organisation in the most appropriate way that meets the needs of what their systems need to take, in the format they need to take it, and in the time frame that they require it. So there'll be some work there and customisation, but that's where we realise we have to head to, and that is where we're going to head to. So there's a lot of work happening at the moment to support that. The next thing is dashboards. Every day I hear about dashboards, and a lot of that work in client land particularly, we realise that people are time poor, they've got lots more information than they've ever had before, and they want a simple way of understanding what does it all mean, what are the major trends, what's actually going on. So we've got a huge development here to produce our own dashboard environment, which we will roll out online to clients, which can work on mobile platforms and PC, and I'll just show you a sneak preview of what that will look like as well. And the final thing in our roadmap, of course, is that a lot of you still rely very heavily on Asteroid. It's a fantastic program just in terms of being able to hide all of the sophistication and the difficulties in dealing with data and keeping it simple just to pick data, run tabulations, graph, run media schedules. But the idea is to move it to a completely cloud-based service. That'll make it faster and more flexible. It'll enable us to push out updates in real time as well as software updates. So that's where we will be heading to. So Helix Personas. So this will be, I've got just a few slides here just to give you an idea of what this is going to look like. So what is Helix Personas? Well, like I said, at its core, it's really a common language of how you can integrate different data sets together so that they can talk to one another. It basically has, at its very heart, 56 personas, which roll up into 7 communities Australia-wide. We've used ABS data, third-party transactional and other data sets, Roy Morgan single source, and specifically our value segments to create this work. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of variables that go into the creation of Helix Personas, which are a combination of psychographic and behavioural-based personas. So this is a very exciting initiative, which will be what I would call a data as service product. So it'll be available online. This will be something where you'll be able to go to our Helix Persona website, log on, and if you subscribe, you'll be able to have a look at it. And then at a certain point, if you subscribe to it, you'll be able to do things like have Helix appended to your third-party data sets. You'll be able to do things like mapping. You'll be able to download reports and information. So just to give you a little bit of a run through on what we're talking about, what you see behind me is Young and Platinum. They're 0.6% of the population. The way we'll present the data will be in things like word cloud, so it'll be very modern, it'll be very easy for people to understand what we're talking about and what these people look like and what they mean. We'll talk to you about what their core values are and their value segments are. These people tend to be more young optimists. We'll tell you about where they live and who they are. You'll notice here we'll also tell you about their likes. All of this will be interactive. You'll be able to click on these things and click through to deeper information about these likes and what it all means. You'll have some pictures to give you an idea to visualise these people. You'll get to understand what they do during the course of a day, get to know them. You'll get to understand what media they use. You'll get to understand the brands they like, what they are, etc. And I think that's a really important area in terms of the media, in terms of this will directly link, because it comes from single source, it will directly link into all of our cross-media data. So you'll get to understand exactly what media people are using when, like a day in the life of media, which will go across everything from print to digital to TV, radio, etc. So that's very exciting. And the other thing, of course, I should stress is because it's linked to single source, all of this is updated monthly. This is not something that's just put up and it's up at a particular point in time. So we're very excited to be able to say, and I don't believe this happens anywhere else in the world, that this is a big data integration set that is updated every single month with new data. And so it's living and breathing and relevant to what's happening in the world, whether or not that's consumer confidence, voting intention, or television programs or newspaper titles, or if in fact it's going to Coles supermarkets, etc. So it will directly link in. Just a couple of quick slides. Young and Platinum belong to a broader group called Metrotech, which is just over 13% of the population. And the format's slightly different. Being a broader community, the language changes a little bit more, but it gives you two perspectives on these groups of people. The other area, which is really exciting because a lot of our clients do a lot of geospatial analysis. A lot of clients do local area marketing initiatives. And so we are going to be launching a mapping service, for want of a better term, geospatial software service, which will be again online, linked to Helix, which will allow people to be able to drill into communities and groups of people, either from an overall Australian perspective through down to a neighbourhood, right down to effectively using Google Street View to get a real sense of individual streets and communities and who they are, where they are, and how to target them. And there's going to be a lot of applications for clients, like I said, who do a lot of geospatial and catchment area and local area marketing initiatives. The next area is dashboards. So this again is pretty exciting. So this is responding again to a very strong need to take our data, and in fact I believe down the track it will be any data, but initially we're working on getting our single source data that our clients subscribe to in a format where we've got dashboards that just give you the key indicators of what's going on. Here is an example of what the finance data, customer satisfaction, as you know, is pretty important for the banks. This is what this could look like. So you'd be able to drill down, you'd be able to look at different products, you'd be able to look at different states, you could look at different types of segments. Here we're looking at channels and different products and their satisfaction scores. Are they up, are they down, relative to whatever benchmarks you want. So at a glance, clients will be able to see this information and either then go into a deeper system for analysis or whatever. And so this will be something that we are actually rolling out this year on an individual client basis, but this will be something that will come on mainstream from Q1 next year. And it will be available in render not only on PCs but on mobile devices as well. So just in terms of the timeline here, to make it clear, so Helix Personas will be publicly launched in Q4 this year. We will be doing roadshows with our clients starting from next week. Some of you will have already seen some small sneak previews of it. It is actually up and ready for action. It can be used today. We're just putting the final touches in terms of the marketing and the website for the public launch. So that'll be something that you'll, like I said, clients or anyone who's interested can see that from next week. The API capabilities are there, and for those of you who didn't know that we are capable of creating system linkages between Asteroid and our data and your systems, we can and we have been doing so, and they are available today. But where we're moving to, like I said, immediately as of today is the dashboard delivery, and then from next year really this whole idea of creating data pipelines between our company and clients with full data integration, and that will be whatever that means for those clients. So just in summary, the first thing that we've announced is really about speed to market. So this starts with the fact that you're now getting full media databases today ahead of time, and that they will now move to being available 5 to 6 weeks available after the end of the month. The next thing is a move to cloud-based systems. So this will be dashboards and also Asteroid available over the web or on the cloud. It will be for the very first time having monthly breaks available in media databases. I didn't mention earlier, but I should say that there are some people of you in the room here who actually have a sneak preview of that. We have got a number, about 4 major agency groups, trialling that monthly break data at the moment. One of the things that we will be doing I believe it's next week, is that we're convening a working party between some major agency groups and publishers, which is the normal people who come to our readership forums, to discuss some of the protocols around how that's used. So people just understand how to responsibly use that data, because there's a lot of it, and people just need to be trained in how to do so. So we will be talking that through, just to provide some simple guidelines of what it means, what are the things to look out for and be mindful of in preparation for the release of that data on September 30. The production of the long-term cumulative data sets, the release of Helix personas in Q4, and then finally getting to a point where our data can just be integrated with our client systems, and that will be a discussion that will probably be a one-on-one discussion with each client depending on their systems and their needs. So I just thank you for coming today, and I trust that you found that exciting. There are a lot of initiatives that we're doing for our clients and in response to the market needs and requirements. So what I would ask now is if George Pisuto maybe join me on the stage. He's the head of our media operations, in case anyone would like to ask any questions.